Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the TCUK Round 1 here at Donington Park National. My name is Daniel Handover, and joining me in the commentary box is Mr. Dylan Pick. Dylan, the first time we've actually worked together. Looking forward to being able to work with you more in the future. But I believe this is, we were talking about this before, a track that you're familiar with in the real world.
Yes, hello. Thank you for having me. Thank you to Simsport and VMO for having me, and it's good to be joining you tonight, Dan. Donington, it's what would be considered my local circuit. It's the only one I've been to in real life. It's one of my favourite tracks of all time, and I'm really looking forward to our first time working together and the opening round of the TCUK Championship being at this circuit, which is so close to my heart especially.
Absolutely. Well, Donington Park, we all know Donington Park, one of the staples of British motorsport, obviously featuring the crane and curves, old hairpin, two very, very famous corners, very tricky corners as well, and then the likes of McLean's, Coppice, and down finally into the Robert Chicane. It's a great, great circuit. This is also a fast circuit, and it's one of the best circuits, really, to start any race series off, especially something like TCUK. In terms of the drivers, we've got a few new drivers. I believe we have 11 new entries this season in TCUK, and that's obviously going to shake things up a little bit. We can see there is the spotters guide there. So again, we have people obviously from the top level. You can see Dan Kell there in the Focus RS, very, very experienced person within R-Factor 2 and TCUK. Matt Richards as well, Ross McGregor, and then a little bit further down the order, you can see again lots of new entrants that are dotted around. But there's a few drivers that we have seen several times here across several seasons, so they will be hoping to obviously make sure that they can stay up the top, as with the new entrants are going to be wanting to make sure that they can make an impact, really make an impression right from the word go. We have 3 races for you today, as with normal touring car fashion. They're going to be around 20 minutes each and another couple of minutes or so, and we'll be getting ready for race number 1. So Dylan, going into this race, obviously very, very new, with lots of new drivers, again, lots of experienced drivers as well. It's really difficult, I think, for us to predict anything because we simply don't know. There are a couple of drivers that we know are going to be realistically up there, but at the same time, it's quite hard to tell with this first race.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, it's all very new to me as well, so I feel very privileged, and it's an exciting experience for me and all the viewers out there, but because this doesn't happen regularly and there are 11 new entries with 30 cars on the grid, it's very exciting. We just don't know what's going to happen. The defending champion Dan Kell is here. You'd expect the defending champion to be the one to watch out for, but it's so unknown, really, with new cars and everything as well. What could happen? It's unknown to everyone, and it makes for a really good season. As you can see, the 10-round calendar there, all really staples in the British calendar. We've got Brands Hatch Indy next as well, which again, a track that can spice up anything. It's so short, but it's only about a mile long, Brands Hatch Indy, but that's also very interesting. But here is the grid. I'll let you take this one away, Dan.
Lovely stuff, thank you very much. So go through your top 5 at least. You have Butcher, Davis, Richard, Maguire, and then Elliott a little bit further down the field as well. You can see Hutt, Leppert, Morbury, Dowman, Morris, and then Spuda at P21. Obviously, this will not stay the same. Bear in mind, as drivers now making their way to the grid, this will change very much so. So let's keep an eye out for what happens. We're just about to get ready. A few more drivers left to go on the grid, and then we will be getting the lights underway. And then it's a relatively short run down into turn 1. You haven't got too much run down into Redgate. Keep an eye out though. Standing start, front wheel drive cars will struggle. They always do here. Although we do see that's Chris Butcher and then Toby Davis taking P1 and P2. We do have a warm-up lap very, very quickly. Allows drivers just to get the tyres up to temperature, get the brakes up to temperature a little bit as well. Something that is and can be quite useful, especially when you're in, something like or a big braking zone. Redgate's a relatively, probably class it as a medium braking zone, so drivers still will want to get their tyres and brakes warmed up so they can get maximum advantage going down into going down into turn 1. But there's your full grid on the left. So you have Butcher, that's Chris Butcher taking pole position with Toby Davis second, Matt Richards in P3, Luke Maguire 4th, Matthew Churgwin in 5th, Luke Mitchell 6th, Chris Shepherd P7, Ross McGregor takes 8th, Callum Wilson 9th, Daniel Herlock in 10th, Dan Kell P11, John Monroe 12th, Cameron Brewster P13, Ben Willis takes 14th on the grid, Dan Hunt takes 15th, Johan Leppert in 16th, Phil Morgan 17th, Sam Dowman in 18th, and Scott Morris and Max Spooner P19 and P20. Obviously, we have the spotters guide here, so we're going to be able to keep you up to date with what is going on. Running on board for the final part of this formation lap with Toby Davis, because it is certainly going to be an interesting start. Keep an eye on Matt Richards, because Matt Richards, he is in the BMW for this season, and we know that the rear-wheel drive cars start a lot better. There is Matt Richards, you can just see there, and also as well, I believe that's Luke McGuire also in the BMW. So there's going to be a few drivers you're going to see. You can just warming their tyres out now, again, just getting that final little bit of advantage in if they can. It's all going to kick off in about 30 seconds. The final set of drivers just come into their starting positions. And you'll see the lights will come on in the top right of your screen. And then once they go out, you can see, I can't quite see who that is, but someone's taken a very, very aggressive start. Can't quite see who that is, but it's an Astra, I think. But either way, they're looking at a pretty aggressive start right from the word-go. Lights are on, so here we go. Round number one, race number one is underway. Who gets a good start? Look at that, Matt Richards straight away capitalises on the rear-wheel drive opportunity. He's already up into first place. He's got the inside on Toby Davis as he goes down into Redgate, and he now leads. Toby Davis second, Chris Butcher in third, and then Maguire in P4. Churgwin in fifth. That's your current top five as they all come down now into Craner curves for the first time, breaking down. It's a very, very tricky corner, his old hairpin, especially on the opening lap when the tyres are a little bit cold. Bottom right of your screen is Sam Dowman for Wolfsman Racing. There was a little bit of contact there, a little bit further back. Can't quite see. That was, I think, Dan Hutt that was getting a little bit sideways going through old hairpin in the bottom right corner of your screen in the Subaru Levorg. Great to see that car still being used as well. Fantastic car to see there. And it's still being used by a few drivers, as that is, I believe, Matt Richards and Toby Davis still at the front, battling relatively aggressively in these opening stages of the race. Some getting kicked up on the grass there. I think that was Toby Davis trying to get the cutback. Can't quite get it there. Attack mode's been activated for Matt Richards. Let's give him a little bit more boost of power, I believe. Can't for the life of me remember how much horsepower is actually given. Maybe it just gives you a bit of an advantage there. Which is still in P3. He's dropped off of the back a little bit from Toby Davis. So the teammate, that's someone else that's gone off. Can't quite see who that is. I know it's one that was... Oh! Big incident. Just come across who... I think... In all honesty, that's very, very hard to tell. We're hopefully going to get some more. I believe that was...
Sam Dowman.
Sam Dowman. Very, very true. Yes, very good spot there for Wolfsman Racing. Sam Dowman. Big, big incident there. That was nasty. Just came across, tried to keep his foot in, which in one respect you can do, but just couldn't quite get it. Couldn't quite get it back on the circuit in a safe manner. Come across, and that was the end of that.
Well, I completely missed that because I was trying to find out how much horsepower you get for the attack mode, and it's 54 horsepower extra you get. And we saw a lot of drivers using it. Someone used it straight up on the exit of Redgate, which was very surprising. Straight away, you'd thought drivers would be a bit more controlled with it and use it at a more key point, but you know, you can see then already on the top left hand side of the screen, a lot of drivers popping the attack mode and already wanting to hustle and get these early positions, which is very interesting. But then you can see people like Dan Kell, Wilson and Herlock all using together, then the top five all just popping them as they exit the Goodard chicane. You're all going to be using it at the same time, and it basically nullifies the effect of it. So maybe they need to stop being a little smarter with when they use it. That's Dan Kell, the defending champion, going a bit defensive into turn one from Wilson. Wilson wasn't really close enough, but Herlock's close to the back of Wilson. And here's a replay then of the incident. That's the number 28 just getting on the curb, going off, and I'm guessing they're going to hit the barrier and come across and collect some people. There we go, in the ground. You gotta love video games, and takes out. Who was that just got collateral? Was that Kurt? Was that Churgwin that got collateral there?
It may have been. It was one of the Infinities, I believe. Yes, Matthew Churgwin for the drag racing car. Unfortunate there. Like I said, a complete passenger. A bit of a shame. But yeah, that is unfortunately the things, especially on opening laps. Everyone's still thereabouts. It can get very, very busy very, very quickly. Still riding now currently with Dan Kelt as your main. So we switch now to Matt Richards. P2 is currently, so Toby Davis has got past him, which I believe that was last lap. So you can see again all the drivers, at least the top five, using all of their attack modes just to try and keep the distance. New best lap time set by Davis with a 108.048 as Matt Richards, he's half a second down. He has pulled a little bit of time back on Toby Davis, but this is where now we've got to see how tyre management, apologies, can actually start to get into this a little bit more, because your tyre management is very, very key here. Arguably, the front-wheel drive cars, if you're not careful on tyres, they will start to go and they will drop off very, very quickly. Rear-wheel drive, you've got the rear wheels obviously actually driving the car, you've got the front wheel steering the car, so they don't have to do, you've got one set of tyres doing one thing only. So if you can manage your tyres in the front-wheel drive car, it can be very, very fast, but it can be a little bit safer towards the end of the race if you're in the rear-wheel drive car. Something that I've always wanted to go for rear-wheel drive if I can. Matt Richards a little bit closer this time to the back of Toby Davis, but then again, attack mode just opens up that gap once again to about half a second. Definitely through the likes of McLean's and Coppice. I think Richards has the advantage for the moment. Davis uses another attack mode. You can see again that gap just shooting up. Matt Richards doesn't respond with one though, so he's obviously saving them for a little bit later. 0.7 of a second now is the gap. A couple of drivers coming out on pit lane. I believe one of them would have been, as I just trying to see, that would have been the incident we saw a little bit earlier on.
Tom Stevens and Matthew Churgman, I believe that will be coming out of pits. You can see on the inside of turn 1 and 2, that was Tom Stevens going slowly, letting everyone through. He was on number 28 that just hit the curb, and then he started doing a bit of lawn mowing there down the main straight, and then it was a bit of an unfortunate one, couldn't quite control the car. The incident almost sums up touring car racing, a bit uncontrolled, a bit argy-bargy, and so far though I'm quite impressed, especially with turn 1. Turn 1 at Donington is always quite a scrappy corner, because like you said at the start, it's not quite, it's low speed, it's medium speed, but it's enough to get an overtake done, and especially in turn 1, lap 1, people are going to go for the moves. With touring car racing notoriously quite scrappy as well as it is, it was fairly clean. There's another car there and the distance that just went and hit the curbs through Goddards. Maybe the driver needs to lay off that a bit. I'm seeing a few more accidents. But yeah, back onto the attack modes, you can see a lot of drivers as they go down the main straight using it. There's the number 444, Callum Wilson, trying to go around the outside of Dan Kell. Couldn't quite get it done. Good defending there by Dan Kell. Yeah, as the attack modes are being popped, drivers can use it maximum 3 times a lap, which gives them a lot of opportunities, especially around Donington Park. If you go into turn 1, into the Goodard chicane, into the old hairpin, or even if you're feeling opportunistic up at Coppice or McLean's, there's a lot of opportunities, and I feel like personally 3 attack modes is quite or 3 a lap is quite generous as well. So it means, do you think maybe that having 3 is a bit too much, because it means that drivers, as we see, they're just constantly using it and you don't really get the defensive or offensive strategic mind you could have with the drivers having the limited amount of attack modes, whereas 3 a lap is quite regular, as that is Scott Morris drifting a bit there through Coppice.
Yeah, it's an interesting, it's something interesting to discuss as well, and everyone's got personal preference. I don't necessarily think everyone's in the same boat as we now differ. This has gone very, very aggressive, and all of a sudden, possibly 3 wide going down into, that is going to be, so that's Dan Kell on the outside. Sorry, no, that's Ross McGregor, the number 3. He comes down, aggressive driving there with the 444. It's getting very, very argy-bargy. Johan's left it in that Subaru Lavore. Another bit of a battle. Can't see who that is. That is... just couldn't quite see who that was. Scott Morris, actually, apologies. So Scott Morris behind there. So the gap around about 0.8 of a second. So we now go to John Munro, who's just sitting at the back of this train here, McGregor, Wilson and Herlock. So that was Wilson, apologies, in that 444 that just got the inside of Ross McGregor. So John Munro, next person to try and get past. They're my teammates for Ross McGregor, so we'll see if he can get past, or if he's going to possibly just play it a little bit safe. We're nearly halfway through this race. As well, you can see he's having a little bit of a look, possibly just stepping out of the slipstream a little bit, just filling McGregor's mirrors. So he obviously wants to get past. Further up the order, though, this top 5 is becoming very, very... becoming a lot closer. We did see the gap between Butcher and Richards open up a little bit, up to about 0.9 of a second. It has now come down now. It's dropped to about 7.5. So it is starting to close. I wonder perhaps Is Davis now just trying, not backing up Richards per se, but is he just trying to modulate tyres now? Is he trying to just manage the tyres a little bit, keep the car under control? There is, so you can see there, to the lead at a second, and then only half a second now. So he is catching up to Matt Richards, another couple of tenths. So he might try and possibly, it's tricky though again with these front-wheel drive cars. The front-wheel drive cars, they do have, we've got yellow in sector 1 somewhere, not entirely sure who that is. And, but yeah, I just think these front-wheel drive cars, you have to be careful. You can push the car when you want, but you do have to be careful at the same time. Ross McGregor, though, tries to go back at the inside of Wilson. Can't quite do it, though, although in saying that, what's going to happen here, because Herlock's just up ahead, the number 87. Is he going to be? I thought he was going to get passed by Wilson there going into the final chicane, but no, they all slot into single file once again. Can Ross McGregor get the good exit? Doesn't seem like he can, no. So Wilson in the Infinity manages to stay ahead for another lap. This is another cracking little train here. See, it's obviously McGregor sitting there, lunges up the inside of Wilson. Wilson leaves the door open, bit of contact between the two. And we'll see Wilson manages to keep the car going in a straight line, but Ross McGregor now does have the advantage, possibly going down to Craner curves. Can he take the inside? There's absolutely no gap between the two, but Ross McGregor capitalised on that well. John Monroe tries to have a bit of a look as well, now riding on board with the number 22 Zancho Simsport driver. Couldn't quite get it though through old Hairpin. Although Ross McGregor, have a look at that. McGregor's trying to have a look up the inside. I wonder if there was a bit of contact there, because it's a little bit wide there for the number 87. And is that going to be another possible move? It is going to be for Ross McGregor, but is it going to be for Wilson as well? But John Monroe decides that he wants to get past both of them at the same time. And John Monroe decides that he wants to, he's not hanging about. Can't quite get it though. Just couldn't quite get the drive. Might have caught a little bit of grass there, which stopped him. Unfortunately, what it means for Herlock, Dan Herlock is just going to get absolutely, he's been pushed out constantly. He's dropped 2 positions in the space of 1 lap. Unfortunately, John Monroe couldn't quite get past. That was a bit of an interesting battle there, as we've seen, and as you said there, Dylan, a bit of argy-bargy, which is what we normally and what we expect to see from the likes of touring cars.
Yeah, it's the sort of thing I really enjoy about watching touring car racing. No one's really afraid to get their elbows out. No one's going to be passive, because they're not necessarily the widest of cars either. So you can do what John Monroe did and try and send it down the inside at Coppice. Not really a normal overtaking spot, but very opportunistic. And then 3 wide down the back straight. This is just why we love touring car racing. Door to door, elbows out. It's scrappy. It's good. It's very exciting to watch. Everyone's just gonna go for it. They really have no care really for everyone around them. Yes, for leaving spaces. Yes, for being clean. They're willing to take risks, and this is just what I like to see from these drivers. Willing to take risks, willing to risk their own race to try and get this position. As we see, this is Dan Herlock being chased by, if we can, who's that behind him? That is Cameron Brewster in the number 38 Infinity car. There. This is also, if we look at the top 5 as well, as Cameron Brewster now having to go a bit defensive as he peers for an attack onto Daniel Herlock. But as you can see, a nice train as well. If you look at the timing screen as well to the top 5, look how close it is there as well. There's a bit of a gap now between Butcher and Maguire forming. But it's not like top levels of motorsport where you see these massive 10-second gaps. They are all grouped up together, and that's a penalty for Morris. Or if we can get some news on that, he's in P17, he's in the pits now. Track limits.
Been told it's for track limits. Yeah, I've been told it's track limits. Actually, something that you've got to be keeping an eye on, is it? Because track limits can be very, very tricky here, especially if you get too many of them. So you will find we've had a couple of people now that I believe have had track limit penalties. Matthew Churgrin still chasing down Luke Maguire, but nothing as of yet. BMW versus Infinity. Number 43 for Nocturne car. That's Matthew Joe for Drake Racing, number 43. Chasing down the Nocturne number 18 BMW of Maguire. So rear-wheel drive versus rear-wheel drive. So we have 3 rear-wheel drive cars in the top 5. Actually, I believe the Infinity is front drive, if I'm not mistaken. I for the life of me, have just sort of forgotten. I think it might actually be a front-wheel drive, in all honesty. Someone, I'm sure, will correct me on that in a few moments. You see a little bit of a lock-up there, an old hairpin for Maguire. That would have cost him a little bit of time, would have put a little bit more stress on the rear tyres, on the front tyres as well. Again, another little bit of sideways movement. This might allow Churgwin to have a bit of a look up the inside. I thought it was going to be, but he goes a little bit wide also as well on the exit of McLean's, but he hasn't dropped all that much time, in all honesty. So possible move here for, actually, I think there was a bit of sideways movement there. I think it's Infinity maybe, rear wheel drive, in fact. But either way, gaps stay roughly the same. They have opened up once again. And in fact, Butcher has actually just got past Matt Richards. Matt Richards, apologies, has lost a position to Butcher. Is he going to try and get it back, though? He tries to go to the inside. He's going to get the run down. It's going to be a lunge. He goes for the lunge, does Matt Richards. And I think he's gone and done it. He has. You see it on the time tower. It has changed over. And that's going to be Matt Richards that takes that position back. Although, you see Chris Butcher just holds it around the outside, going through the first half of Crane Curves. He's going to hold it through the second half of Crane Curves as well. But Matt Richards is on the inside, going through Old Hairpin. They both lock up a little bit. It's still side by side by Matt Richards. I don't think he's going to quite do it. No, he doesn't. Butcher stays ahead. This is a rivalry that has been going on many, many seasons and is already going forward for race number 1. I've only got 3 laps left as well, bear in mind. But now looks what's happened. Davis has just driven off into the distance. And that's going to allow this 4-car battle of 4P2. Matt Richards back up the inside into Coppice. He manages to make the move stick. Yes, he does. Maguire was a little bit too much curb into Coppice. That would have cost him a bit of time. So, once again, roles reversed. Matt Richards now ahead. Chris Butcher now in 3rd place. Tries to have a look again, fill in the rearview mirrors of Matt Richards, but he has not wavered one little bit. Gets a nice clean exit through the final chicane. Yes, he does. Look at that. He's pulled out about 0.2 of a second. Exactly what he needed. That would have given him a little bit of a breathing room. Good little batter there by the 4. It's not over yet, though. Again, 2 more laps to go. This is where it starts to get a little bit more aggressive, perhaps, or more aggressive, I should say, than we've already seen. And maybe moves that weren't going to happen at the start of the race now will start to creep in.
Well, you say that there's a penalty for Mitchell, so that was another track limits. But you say that, but we saw what Monroe did up at Coppice. I mean, it's touring car racing. What you'd expect to be a last-ditch effort is normally the standard here, and expect to see as Matt Richard locks up into McLean's, I believe. And now is this going to be, who's that in the number 65? Chris Butcher trying to get round Matt Richards. This is the battle for P2. This is going to invite Maguire in as well. And then Churgwin pops attack mode. Toby Davis has run off into the distance here. Up towards the chicane. Everyone with their attack modes. They've run out of straight. They've not really got much of an opportunity as they all just mimic each other one after the other with attack modes. Now Churgwin onto the main straight. Maguire will then pop attack mode as well, and then Richard. But round the outside, Butcher tries to peer remove defensive. Richard goes. Butcher can't find a way through. Tries to get a switchback, but he's nowhere near close enough. And having to make these defensive moves and these little squabbles is just going to invite the cars further behind. And Churgwin might just be rubbing his hands a bit here. Maybe a potential crash as there are only 2 laps to go. We hope there isn't one, but you never know what could happen. One wrong move and it is over. They are seemingly starting to get a bit scrappy here as Butcher follows right down the inside. He tries to go through Stark. He's now going to try and go around the outside of McLean's. He's not really a spot you want to be doing. He's sticking himself on the outside of and running wide. But Butcher, will he go defensive? No, he holds his normal line into Coppice. Butcher holds his line, doesn't peek out, but is now inviting Maguire. As you can see, Maguire is very close to the back, and so is Churgwin, all popping attack modes as they go onto the back straight up towards Goodard chicane as we ride on board with Luke Maguire in the number 18. Again, you can see no one really close enough. Make a move into the chicane as we go on to the final lap of the race.
Indeed, so yes, lap 16 out of 16. The current gap between Davis. Oh, Chris Butcher goes to the inside very aggressively. Matt Richards recognises it. Tries to carry his normal racing line and carry as much speed as he can. Is he going to possibly get a cut back? No, he goes a little bit wide. That would have cost him. He might try and wait. That might be the last possible move, because you can see here, Tapmo's being used all over the shop. 2.5 of a second is the gap between Richards and Butcher. This is the battle that we want to watch, and this is the battle that we're going to be very, very interested to see how it comes through. Like I said, at the moment, Davis has got this wrapped in the bag. He's 7 seconds up the road between from Butcher, so he's certainly got race 1 in hand, providing he keeps it nice and clean for the final few corners. Matt Richards gets very, very close to the back of it's going to be a last lap absolute send going into that final chicane. I can see it now. You can actually see, but I think that's Churgwin as well getting involved. Churgwin's got past Maguire. That's going to allow him to try and make a move. It's going to be a possible 3 wide going down. It's not going to be a 3 wide, actually, to Maguire. Churgwin has backed off. Is there going to be a send? No, there is not. No, Matt Richards decides against it, wants to take the positions, but Toby Davis takes P1 for race number 1. Great racing from him. Chris Butcher in second. Matt Richards playing the long game and taking the points rather than causing or potential incident, and goes and takes P3. Churgwin, Maguire in 4th and 5th. A little bit further down though, Callum Wilson having a little bit of a battle. Can't quite make the move, unfortunately. Can't quite. He manages to stay ahead of Dan Herlock. Phil will be P14. A couple of drivers left to finish. And then we'll be having a little bit of a break and then going down, getting set up and ready for race number 2. But race 1, as we expected, certainly provided some good racing, certainly provided a good amount of battling, as we would be expected to see from any touring car race, and especially with VMO, providing some good racing as always. They've been going for a long time, VMO, as well. And I remember racing in one of the seasons back as well, a few years ago. That was absolutely fantastic racing then, and it's very much the same now. But yes, 3, very, very good stuff. Davis, Butcher, and Richards. Interesting enough, I thought Richards was going to make a move going down into Robert. But to be fair, I can understand why. Playing the long game, there's 2 other races to go this evening. And as well, you've got the entire championship left to go. You've got a long way to go in this championship. So, yeah, there's plenty of other opportunities to make some positions up.
Yeah, indeed. But then you're gonna, if it comes back to it in the end of our championship and you lose it by a point or so, you're then gonna look back and probably be gutted you didn't go for it. But at the same time, that 3rd place could be better than a potential DNF or 5th or whatever if it went wrong. So, in hindsight, it's probably the safest thing to do, not go for the move and just hold back. And it's 3rd, it's very good. I mean, he might be gutted he didn't get higher, but no one was really going to be catching Toby Davis there. Once everyone started squabbling, he ran off into the distance. He was unseen. Very deserved win for him. The other 2 further back, brilliant battle between Matt Richards and who else was they battling with?
They were battling with Churgwin, and I think it was Churgwin. Maguire did have a penalty, so that was why he dropped down the order in the end. But yeah, Churgwin and Maguire were having a bit of a scrap as well. So, you know, Chris Butcher as well, yes, obviously Butcher in second. So, yeah, you know, as you said, Matt Richards just play the long game, taking the points. You may as well. Plus, yeah, there's 2 extra rounds as well. There may be something that, again, as people get more used to the track, more used to the conditions, etc., they will then be able to. They will be able to go through and obviously have a little bit more experience, a little bit more practice within the within this. Within the circuit. We're going to have a short break in a few moments, and then we'll be coming back for race number 2. But yeah, race 1, as per usual, absolutely fantastic amount of battling. We've got 2 more races to go, bear in mind. So do stick around for that. We will be having a very, very short break while we change everything over, and then we'll get ready for race number 2. Don't go anywhere.
yes, oh yes, oh yes, oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. How I can live more stronger if my actions not right. Now I feel like you're right.